The Square Ball Podcast.
Welcome to the show. It's brought to you in association with Levi Solicitors, who will offer you a 10% discount for their whole range of services, 10% discount on your legal fees at levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. There are many, many services they offer for you, for your business. I can think of 3 in the form of wills, probate and conveyancing for you personally, but it goes far beyond that. Dispute resolution. They also offer commercial dispute resolution. Michael, what are your other favourite ones now? I've taken away all the ones that you normally fall back on.
No, because I know about lasting powers of attorney.
Yep.
That's the thing you can get in place. I know about professional negligence.
You certainly do.
And I know others too, but I'm not telling you.
Right, what about telling the listener or viewer?
I'm leaving it for them to find out on the website.
That's very, very, very good of you. Like, so they get a reward when they log on. And
exactly. You don't want to. It's like if a trailer shows you too much of the film.
Yeah.
You sometimes think, oh, there's not much point watching it now.
Yeah.
Go on there, have a look, see what there is, and get a discount.
Yeah, it's a 10% discount. levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. 10% discount on your legal fees. Right, it's down Michael and Moscow here to do the weekly roundup. And we're going to start on a discussion point, if we may.
Oh, God.
Because nothing's happened.
Yeah. Well, it actually has been a quiet week, and we have almost reverted to a state of something like normality. And it's a theme you picked up on in your match report, Moscow, which is the thread I wanted to pull, actually, because it really resonated with me. That is available at thesquareball.net if you want to read it. Sunderland match report speaking about that specifically. I'm going to quote this this paragraph that you wrote right back at you. Make you justify
Do I have to listen to this?
Your stupid words, yes. Do you want to read it out?
No.
Okay. It's turning out that we picked a bad year for our weird, infuriating football club to start being the one thing we've craved all century. Quite normal. You can tell the story of Leeds United since the millennium by pointing to any date on the calendar and asking, why couldn't we just have been normal? But now normal is here. Normal might not be all it's cracked up to be. And I thought it was a really interesting point you were making in the sense that we've started doing normal things. We've got quite a backroom team that's been put in place now, executives and various strategy officers and so on and so forth, operating people. And we are behaving ostensibly like a normal football club. And after years of drama, are we struggling with being normal?
Well, the flip side to that and kind of the thing that carries it through is that Leicester and it being normal would be fine, but Leicester and Ipswich have both gone insane. And that's what's making everything bad, because there's been a lot of questions about Farke and his performance after the Sunderland game. But so many times during Leeds United's time out of the Premier League before, we would have swapped anything for a 2-time championship winning manager who was getting 2 points a game out of our team. Like, that is what we want. That's the plan. That's the aim, the mission. Well, the aim is 2 points a game. The fact that we've got a guy who's won this division twice before is even like an extra bonus. So it should be fine. We should be winning the league. Unfortunately, the price, we have decided to be normal at a time when Leicester and Ipswich are doing exceedingly not normal things. I mean, the things that they're doing, if they both carry on as they are, they will both beat Reading's, Brian McDermott's Reading's.
106, was it?
106 championship winning points, and they would both beat it, 1 and 2, which is how unprecedented what they're doing is. So it's a bit annoying, really, and also maybe a bit of a kind of a reality check, because there's two. I'm on this because on one hand, what more can Farke do than 2 points a game? That's great.
3.
But then you see how but then you see how many attackers we had on the field against Sunderland. You're like, but how didn't we score? So that it feels like there is almost that room for improvement does exist, that we could actually be as good as Leicester and Ipswich if we just were a bit better.
We were close to it though, weren't we? It's just that early spell of the season that's left us where we are.
Yeah, would still be. I mean, since then, I think our points per game average is like 2.14 since the end of the transfer window, and Leicester and Ipswich are still, they're buggering about like 2.4 points per game, it's unreasonable. But yeah, so what we're asking now of Daniel Farke is to do something as insane as what Leicester and Ipswich are doing, which
we're not far off doing anyway.
Yeah,
except if you ignore that first month part of it, which made us all feel very sad. Just looking at the table, actually, as we stand here after a round of 21 rounds of fixtures, and to see the table stratifying a little bit, in the sense that you've obviously got Leicester and Ipswich pulling away at the top. Then there's us and Southampton sort of tucked in the slipstream there, like sort of 10, 12 points back. And then it's the rest of them from West Brom downwards. But at the other end of the table, you've got Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday both on 13 points, who are both 8 points adrift of Huddersfield in 21st. So you can see it's reflected in the bottom of the table, as well as two teams that are kind of pulling away at the top. You've got the two at the bottom who are adrift. And it reminds me a little bit almost of what tends to happen in the Premier League on your average year these days, when you get like, when Man City and Liverpool would go off and rack up a huge points total or whatever, and then you'd have teams just at the bottom just doing absolute shite.
Sheffield Wednesday resurgent. Well, compared to a few weeks ago. I mean, I was just looking actually at the promotion season under Bielsa. If you take, I know we've obviously lost, but prior to that, 7 games, 6 wins and a draw stacks up with, it was beaten once. We won 7 in a row once in that season. We went up. And we had, at the end of the season, we finished with a draw and 6 wins, which is what we've just had. So we should be grateful, is what I'm saying.
Well, that's the thing, is there's not much more we can ask than what they're doing. I mean, Farker is doing what he was brought in to do, get 2 points a game and try and get us promoted. And there is a side of it where you just look at what the teams above us are doing. It's got like, fine, if you can keep that up, well done.
Yeah.
Like, you can't really argue with it. But then there's those little bits where it's like, well, if we were a bit more creative in the final third, if we were a bit more, if we had a bit more goal threat coming out the middle of the park, if we could win in the blue kit, if we could play against a red and white striped team, all those little bits where it is tempting there, but it's just kind of reminding ourselves that we're trying to achieve something insane against these people, when just at the moment when the club is like, let's just everything be sensible, because we'll probably January we'll probably sign a left back. I know that's outrageous thinking, but how normal is that? And then what's it going to do us? We're going to finish third.
Can we just say, sign a left back?
Well, what's going to be the point? Not going to win the league with them, are we?
Playoffs.
So, and then lose.
We'll have them for the playoffs.
We'll see how far the normality goes.
Or maybe in just having a left back, it gives us enough wins to actually go up, because they can't do it forever.
Well, there's the thing. Did you see Opta's is the championship table lying to us thing?
No, I didn't actually.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, it's based on expected points. So lots of people probably want to turn off at exactly this moment, and they're probably right. But if we...
How do you do expected points? Is it expected goals for and against, and what that would translate to?
Our expected points model simulates the number of goals scored by each side in each match based on the expected goals value of every shot taken.
Right.
It then uses the simulated number of goals to determine the match outcome. Each match is simulated 10,000 times, and the expected points for each team in each match can then be calculated based on the proportion of simulation they win, draw, or lose. I mean, they do say, they are like, well, this is bollocks. They do even up to preface it like it's just a bit bollocks. But
it's an interesting guide, though, isn't it? We've said this like with XG. It's it's not bulletproof. You can't rely on it as a metric for how any particular game has gone. But it's an interesting indicator as to the quality of chances and then how that would convert into points. So yeah, take from it what you will, but also with a pinch of salt.
Well, yeah, it's more the case that like so Leicester, for example, are overperforming based on where they should be. And that what that indicates is that their team is good enough to turn draws into wins and defeats into draws. It's not something magic that it's happening. It's like normally a normal team would be doing this, but Leicester and Ipswich are playing well enough that they should be doing that they are improving on what they should be expected to do. We would have fewer points. We're overperforming, but we would still be top under this. Ahead of Leicester. Leicester would drop to second behind us. The team in third, expected points-wise, would be Sunderland, which is interesting given the way that the game went on Wednesday night. And Ipswich under this should be fourth.
So Ipswich are frauds?
Well, no, it's not that they're frauds. It's more that they are...
That's what I took from it.
That's the title of the show, that.
They're making the most of the chances and the opportunities that they're given. So if they get a half chance to win a game, they're scoring it. Whereas yes, we should be better. Whereas we're underperforming. That's the way it is. We are third. We should by rights be top, but it's a bit of a twist because we should have fewer points. We've got more points than you would expect us to have, but
that's a dun-dun-dun.
Leicester have loads more points than you would expect them to have, and Ipswich have tons of more points than you would expect them to have, but they are playing well enough to get those extra points, and that's the thing. But it's that question of at what point a team reverts to just doing what it should. And Ipswich is a big question because they've been brilliant for 18 months now. It's ridiculous. They reminded me a bit of Simon Grayson's Leeds, because you remember when we went through on the extra ball, we went through the League One promotion year, and we got to Christmas basically just winning every single game. Didn't we drop points in one game? It was like one defeat or something.
The record, stupid. If you actually look at it, and I like looking at these on Wikipedia because they colour code them, like green for a win, red for a defeat, and yellow for a draw. It's nuts, the actual amount of green that's in the first half of that season.
So, and then we had to win on the final day to make sure we went up, but we still then had the momentum. In the Championship, we went top at Christmas, didn't we, by beating Neil Warnock's QPR, which he did not like. So there is, once you start winning, it's pretty easy to just keep winning even at a higher level. And but we hit the buffers, but then we had Ken Bates. That was a big part of the problem that season, is that Bates didn't particularly help us to go forward. If Ipswich have a better setup, and maybe they've got the things they need to keep going next year. With
reference to Ken Bates, and that's the way I wanted to sort of frame this question as well, rather than just getting into the sort of statistical modelling side of it, it's about the drama. Are we addicted to the drama? Because you go back to it's the pre-Bates days, isn't it? So even from the collapse 20 years ago that led to the Yorkshire Consortium and then Ken Bates and GFH and Cellino and all the rest of it, we've had so much drama over the last 20 years that I wonder if it has irreparably damaged us a little bit, and we almost need it to sustain now. Because I'm like you, Moscow, you've been telling us to enjoy the moments, I think, when we've been in them, and celebrate moments maybe, and when we see good things, to enjoy them in the moment and not worry too much about what's coming down the track. The problem with that is the finances of the Championship and the fact that it's completely unsustainable, and you can't carry this wage bill without parachute payments and so on and so forth. But I think that creates a certain amount of anxiety that you can't shake that off. You can't ignore that. It's just the reality of being in the Championship, isn't it? But we are ostensibly a very, very good team and hovering around 2 points per game. So there's the anxiety of needing to get out of the Championship, the fact that the top two teams need to just grow up and stop doing what they're doing.
I'm reassured by this Ipswich being fourth thing. I think what are the chances of them continuing it? It'd be like drawing 13 away ties consecutively in the FA Cup or something like that. It just can't happen, can it? Impossible.
Not to Leeds.
For the figures, their expected points is 35.5. They've got 48.
Right.
Cheats.
Leicester's
farming cheats.
Leicester's 38.7. They've got 49. Ours is
crisp cheats.
39.1, and we've got 41.
Right. But the drama aspect of it. Do you think we become addicted to drama? Because like Bielsa's football, which it's held up as the modern sort of gold standard of what we want to see, isn't it? And we've perhaps forgotten some of the more anxious moments that surrounded Bielsa's football because it was so swashbuckling and so exciting. And we know that in the end it worked and it got us up. So you retrofit the experience to the outcome, don't you? Almost. Because I do wonder that.
You forget the patch toward the start of that season as well, because we started really well, and it was like the Bristol game came along and everyone went, all right, this is fine. They were just kind of picking up, not exactly where we left off because that was terrible, where we were a month before the end of the season. But then there was that patch where we lost at Swansea, we drew at Derby, we lost at Charlton when Kiko Casilla
did his
thing. We lost at Millwall, and it was all within about a month was this, and everyone was like, oh shit, maybe we're not going to walk this. This is difficult. The Championship's really hard. And I suppose occasionally it does remind you of that.
Well, that was the thing that in that season, sitting next to Phil Hay I think we were on the gantry that day. Yeah, watching us going 2-0 up against Cardiff before half-time and having the conversation about whether, because it was the same year when Liverpool were romping away with the Premier League. Are we like, are both...
That was a special year.
Are both divisions going to be wrapped up by Christmas? So what are we going to do? What are we going to write about for the rest of the season if it's Leeds just winning every single game? And then by full time, like that was it. Like that was everything had changed. We were like, what the hell? Well, maybe that's just a blip. And it wasn't a blip.
I referenced it. That was the game that broke the seven game winning streak. Yeah, with an hour of that game gone, you were like, well, that's 8 games on the bounce one. Well, and then, we went to Fulham, lost, drew with Preston. And then had some madness at Birmingham before another bad run.
Maybe if we're not addicted to drama, then do you think maybe it has come to sort of define our identity to a certain extent, and we struggle to shake that off?
I don't know. Maybe are all clubs like this? I don't know. I feel like the reaction to a defeat is over the top generally, but maybe I think that's
the nature of like forums and socials, isn't it? It kind of it just amplifies it and magnifies it. It acts as a catalyst. Like when Leeds lost to Sunderland, I just disengaged from it all, didn't read it because I knew it had just dragged my mood down. So I just left it, and I was quite happy and able to let it go as a result, because I've got faith that we've got enough in us to hopefully claw back the difference, which seems like a really difficult task now. But I'm aware that like we've got Ipswich to face at home in a couple of weeks, 10 days. And, there's the Leicester-Ipswich double clash coming up in December, January, which I mentioned on this week's show with Phil, actually. So I won't repeat myself. But yeah, there's a lot of football still to be played.
Because I'm being mature about it, I'm not going to be calling for Farker out until at least the end of that Ipswich game. Right. At which point...
That's very reasonable.
If we lose that, obviously, I think a pitch invasion would seem fair.
I think it'd make me feel really sad if there were people turned on him for not getting us promoted this season. Imagine how sad he'd feel and what he might say.
Well, when I fall out with him, then we'll find out. Mugs are back in stock.
Get them while he's winning. There have been a few...
What is the last postage date, by the way, before Christmas for the UK?
You need to order by...
Sunday the 17th.
We're going to send stuff out on Monday.
That'll be the last guaranteed date, we think.
Yeah, I think because we send tracked 48... Probably some stuff may still get there, but don't.
Why are you doing this to yourself? Do you want?
Don't rely on it.
Yes.
Don't complain. Basically,
pile your orders in on Sunday, so Michael's a shit Monday.
Monday at 4 o'clock. Get all your orders in on Monday at 4 p.m. We will be delighted to watch Michael fulfilling all those before the postman comes and collects all the bags.
The postman comes at 4:23, so if you could order as late as possible on.
Just order over the weekend, please.
Yeah, do it on Sunday, and then we'll have a relaxing day on Monday sending all this stuff out. There have been a few whispers of whether, because Leeds keep failing in the same way against Sunderland and against Stoke and against Sheffield Wednesday, of like trying to unlock defences, and there have been a few comments along the lines of, does Farker know how to solve that problem? And I think he does, because did it twice with Norwich. Norwich got over 100 points, didn't they? Which I'm sure he likes to. Daniel Farker is not shy of bringing up Norwich City's promotion records. And yes, and how many golden boots he picks up along the way. But I think the difference there is, and where he has a problem perhaps keeping us sweet, is that Norwich had Buendia. And so that's the problem. He knows how to solve the problem of not being able to unlock a packed bus parking situation, as he found at Sunderland, that their coach wasn't happy about him highlighting, is to have a really great playmaker playing in attacking midfield behind the strikers who can create loads of goals. Without that, I do wonder if his response is just, well, I'm doing the best I can with this lot, and I don't know how much more than 2 points a game. It's weird because even without an Emi Buendia or even without a Pablo Hernandez, we're performing at a rate, we're winning enough points and winning enough games to win the damn league. 2 points a game, we should win the league. What's that over 46? What, 46 times 2?
92.
That'll win the league. It should. But so whether we have it's almost we can cope without a player like that, because we're doing well enough anyway. But now we're in this position because of Leicester and Ipswich setting this unusual pace. It's a problem now that either needs to be solved and we sign a Buendia, a Hernandez, somebody to help those players score more goals, or we stick as we are and hope that Leicester or Ipswich or both freak out and let us through at the rate that we are going through. So it's
freak out like Sheik, hey?
Yeah, so it's a bit annoying. We do actually have we've got a championship-capable team with a championship-capable manager that is performing at championship-capable levels.
Championship.
We're just he didn't quite get over 100 points, 94 and 97, but either of those would be fine. They won the league with that twice.
Well, just wrapping up the other stuff before we circle back to one of the architects of our drama in the form of Victor Orta. Other news is Jan Poveda made his Colombia international debut. 1-1 against Venezuela. He played 80 minutes, so that looked pretty lively. And he was involved in the winning goal, which was an OG, wasn't it, in the end? Good on him. Another international footballer. Another Colombian for you to fall in love with, Michael?
I mean, where's he from?
Colombia.
Yeah, where's he? Is he London?
Medellin.
Yeah, one thing I did come across, which I was going to retweet, but it felt mean on the man doing it. It was who interviewed him years ago, but found a bloke who looks really like Almiron's dad, who interviewed Poveda years ago. I was just trying to find out how he'd done in this game by searching his name, and I came across him. I was like, that looks just like Almiron. The bits I read seem to have done all right, but it's not it's a weird kind of half team, isn't it? This that they've played. It's not like a full international.
There's I did check because somebody Rafita Elias 23 was straight on Wikipedia to award him that Colombian cap.
I know he gets a cap for it. He does get a cap for it, but it's
a 22-year-old from Bogota. Hi, Rafita, if you're listening.
That's where he's from, Bogota as well.
Well, yeah, that's where he is in
Bogota. Yeah.
Southwark, the southern end of
close.
Bogota,
just the other end of the M3.
But it's nice.
It's good for him, isn't it? It'd be interesting to see where he ends up. It doesn't feel like he's got a future at Leeds. I will say that. Not of any significance.
I thought he had a bit of a chance over summer, I have to say, because he'd done well in pre-season, and it was that point where it wasn't entirely clear if Nonto would stay, if Dan James would be any good, and so you thought, there's maybe an opening for him somewhere around there. Sinistera, obviously at that point we were still hoping to keep as well. Although glad he left.
He played the other week after Farkas said he'd been performing well in training, and he was like, when we put him on the pitch, we don't necessarily know what he's going to do, but it's worth trying. And that was, which game was that? Was it Rotherham? So it's not too long ago since he's been in, but I think
it was a bit like that with Michael Ricketts, wasn't it? But for different reasons.
There's been conflicting kind of strands because of this Colombia call-up coming up outside of an international window. It's good for Jan Poveda's longer-term career to be picking up Colombia caps, and maybe he can get a move to the Colombian league if he fancies it, puts himself in the shop window and opens up opportunities that way. But it does kind of make it more difficult from getting himself in the team at Leeds, because it's not a great sign. I know Daniel Farker was like, imagine if we told him no, but also, if Jorginho Rutter was like, actually, I fancy just going and playing for somebody else next week. Like, well, we're playing Ipswich and Leicester. You'll be all right without me. I quite fancy doing this. It's probably a different situation.
It does sort of, like you say, with an eye on his future, but it does almost cement the likely outcome for his future at Leeds, doesn't it? Weirdly,
unless, as Farkas said, if he comes back in a great mood and starts performing off the charts, and he ends up scoring all the goals that mean we overhaul Ipswich and Leicester, then give him a 10-year contract and a statue.
Super.
In Bogota.
Elsewhere, the women game postponed versus Norton and Stockton Ancients because rain that time of year, winter. 21s lost to Sparta Prague 3-1 in the Premier League International Cup, which happened after we recorded this show last week. They did win against Colchester very late, 96-minute winner by Joe Snowden.
Worth watching the highlights of that for some real Bailey Peacock farrelling by their goalkeeper.
The 21s Premier League Cup, which us and Colchester are obviously in. So there's that. And then, just to wrap up what we're saying about Victor Orta, Sevilla went out of the Champions League and Europe completely, a bit like Man United and Newcastle did, actually.
Shame that.
Victor Orta under a great deal of fire there, and the significant news being that he shaved off his beard.
He needs to grow it back, doesn't he? Quite frankly. It's terrifying.
I saw somebody it's like, look, he's morphed into an American serial killer. Like, it looks like one of those sort of Netflix kind of... looks like one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He shaved it while he was at Leeds, didn't he, for charity? But he left the tash on for some photos, and he looked like quite a different proposition of character.
In my old ITV days, the woman I used to sit next to was on the online dating. We'd occasionally sit there and flick through them. She'd be like, "Oh, what's the?" And I'd be like, "Nah."
Swipe left, swipe right. The older version of that.
But anyone with a beard, she was always like, "Oh yeah, nice." I was like, "No, he's just got a beard.
Yeah.
Look at the rest of his face. Oh, absolutely disgraceful. Get on." And I think Victor Orta's one of those examples. I bet his wife is disgusted with him.
He's been saying about the situation at Sevilla. He says that that they have to win games starting today. He doesn't want to ask for more patience, but I see an evolution, and that the players believe that we have had good minutes of football lately, and it's in line with the coach's idea. but the results are not coming.
Is Diego Alonso, is it the coach there who he recruited because he met him at a barbecue some years back?
Yes, yeah. So
Victor Orta he does fall for scams, doesn't he? If you can get into his WhatsApp, you're getting some money off him. Undoubtedly, just talk to him for long enough, and eventually he'll put you in at left back, or give you a manager's job, or just transfer you some money for that uncle who died in a plane crash, and you need to pay some money to free up the funds and all that sort of stuff.
If you promise him like a library of back issues of some obscure football magazine from the 1960s, he will give you money for that. And whether you then provide him with those magazines is entirely up to your conscience. So I think you're right that an eBay scam directed at Victor Orta would probably have a reasonable amount of success, a reasonable chance of success if you pitch it right. It's not something anybody should do.
No.
But it is definitely, I'm sure you could, more, rather than scamming him, it would be more appropriate to do like an episode of Beatles About and involve him in a situation where he's got to go to...
One for the youth audience and the Americans there?
It was the, what's the modern version of Beatles About? It's a
hidden camera show, pranks.
No, what's the...
I was going to suggest that getting a new episode of Beatles About might be a bit of a stretch, given his death and everything.
Who are the... Punked is the most recent one.
Rio Ferdinand can do it.
Yeah, he can murk him. So he can... you could lull him to like a village hall somewhere saying that they've discovered a library of old magazines, and if he comes along he can claim them, and they're all, they're there for him, and he'll turn up and then do something like set them on fire by accident and have him being all upset, and then say, actually no, it was a load of back issues of the Square Ball, and it'd be like, great.
Although without the beard, he looks more like he'd be magazines in a hedgerow.
The Square Ball Podcast.